Croeso i'r dydd pimp. Welcome to day 5. I'm going to jump straight into today's highlights. So first of all, because we have a lot to cover today, first of all we have for our lunchtime talk, we had Gŵyl reading Wisława Szymborska. Wisława Szymborska is a Polish poet, and she is just someone we really admire as a festival, and we really like her work, and Will got really into her a few months ago, so we just really wanted to sort of highlight her and like pick her out in particular. So Will reads a couple of poems, talks a little bit about her, so that's just a nice sort of 20-minute chat about a Polish poet if you fancy it. After that we had an afternoon of music. So Lawrence came last year and he did an evening of Japanese music accompanying Polly Barton's talk, and this year he's done an evening of Brazilian music. Lawrence is Brazilian, so this one was a little bit like close to home, and like he sort of, you know, I really enjoyed chatting to him, and we like had some really good chats, and his sort of the songs he's picked out are a range of different styles and different genres, and there's always something I think about like sitting there, like for me filming it, I like sit there and I just listen to like the whole song all the way through in a way I don't in my usual life, like listen to music. So if you get a chance, would recommend just like taking that one outside and sitting with it, you know, just sitting with it and like really listening and paying attention to it. He's picked some really beautiful songs as always. He's good taste, that's why I invite him. And then we had for our evening, we have Paige Anya Morris, who is a translator from Korean. So this was like a really joyous talk. We filmed this talk at midnight my time, 8 AM Paige's time, and she's in Seoul in Korea. And she's just lovely. She's a real like hard-working little gem, and there's a couple of things that are distinctive about this talk. One is about like thinking about Korean and thinking about sort of what's interesting about Korean as a language. And interestingly, if you don't know, Korea's writing system is generally agreed by all sort of linguists to be the best writing system in the world. And so if you want to find out why, watch that talk. We also cover like what it's like to be an early career translator. So a lot of the people we speak to at the festival have a book or two behind them already and are sort of established and have been one of those people that have made it through the gateway of sort of access to translation as a career. So I would highly recommend that for sort of another perspective on translation and translation as a job. And then to wrap up this evening, we have had Professor Claire Williams from the University of Oxford and St Peter's College in particular. She is an absolutely lovely superstar. She talks us through Brazilian women writers. So she sort of does a little bit of a history of sort of Brazilian literature, and then a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then ends up in this huge extensive discussion where she's just sort of recommending book after book after book. There are a few that like seriously caught my eyes that I have never heard of before. There's one called A Proletariat Novel that I've already purchased, and that one looks really good. And there's quite a lot of breadth and depth to the time periods that these are coming out from, and there's quite a lot of difference in what would you say, style and genre. There are some commercial things in there are some literary things in there, and there's quite a sort of range as well as sort of publication date wise. So yeah, those are our 4 talks from today. We had Will reading Wisława, we had Lawrence with an afternoon of Brazilian music, we had Paige Anya Morris on translating Korean, and we had Claire Williams on Brazilian women writers. Enjoy!
This, I understand, is one of her more famous ones for a number of reasons, and I'm sure people will already feel a similar sense, although we're at the other end of our century, but this is called The Century's Decline. Our 20th century was going to improve on the others. It will never prove it now that its years are numbered, its gait is shaky, and its breath is short. Too many things have happened that weren't supposed to happen, and what was supposed to come about has not. Happiness and spring, among other things, were supposed to be getting closer. Fear was expected to leave the mountains and the valleys. Truth was supposed to hit home before a lie. A couple of problems weren't going to come up anymore. Hunger, for example, and war and so forth. There was going to be respect for helpless people's helplessness. Trust, that kind of stuff. Anyone who plans to enjoy the world is now faced with a hopeless task. Stupidity isn't funny. Wisdom isn't gay. Hope isn't that young girl anymore, etc. Alas. God was finally going to believe in a man both good and strong, but good and strong are still two different men. How should we live? Someone asked me in a letter. I had meant to ask him the same question. Again, and as ever, as may be seen above, the most pressing questions are naive ones. I think we're moving now into a couple of poems that are concerned with one of her major themes, which is a kind of metaphysical concern. And the next two poems, I think she outlines that quite nicely. Like I say, I don't know her at all well, so maybe it's coincidence. But have a listen, and I hope these get you thinking, because they've had me thinking. This is called Conversation with a Stone. I knock at the stone's front door. It's only me. Let me come in. I want to enter your insides, have a look around, breathe my fill of you. Go away, says the stone. I'm shut tight. Even if you break me to pieces, we'll all still be closed. You can grind us to sand. We still won't let you in. I knock at the stone's front door. It's only me. Let me come in. I've come out of pure curiosity. Only life can quench it. I mean to stroll through your palace, then go calling on a leaf, a drop of water. I don't have much time. My mortality should touch you. I'm made of stone, says the stone, and therefore must keep a straight face. Go away. I don't have the muscles to laugh. I knock at the stone's front door. It's only me. Let me come in. I hear you have great empty halls inside you, unseen, their beauty in vain. Soundless, not echoing anyone's steps. Admit, you don't know them well yourself. Great and empty, true enough, says the stone, but there isn't any room. Beautiful, perhaps, but not to the taste of your poor senses. You may get to know me, but you'll never know me through. My whole surface is turned toward you, all my insides are turned away. I knock at the stone's front door. It's only me, let me come in. I don't seek refuge for eternity. I'm not unhappy, I'm not homeless. My world is worth returning to. I'll enter and exit empty-handed, and my proof I was there will be only words, which no one will believe. You shall not enter, says the stone. You lack the sense of taking part. No other sense can make up for your missing sense of taking part. Even sight heightened to become all-seeing will do you no good without a sense of taking part. You shall not enter. You have only a sense of what that sense should be, only its seed, imagination. I knock at the stone's front door. It's only me. Let me come in. I haven't got 2,000 centuries, so let me come under your roof. If you don't believe me, says the stone, just ask the leaf. It will tell you the same. Ask a drop of water. It will say what the leaf has said. And finally, ask a hair from your own head. I am bursting with laughter, yes, laughter, vast laughter, although I don't know how to laugh. I knock at the stone's front door. It's only me. Let me come in. I don't have a door, says the stone.
Yeah, on to the last one now. The last of the five songs to sum up hundreds of years of Brazilian
and accompaniment to some Brazilian folks.
Yeah.
So why have you picked this final one, and what's the rationale behind it being last as well?
So I've chosen this. It's a song I really. I think I've probably played this to you before, to be honest, but we'll see. So the intro is just like sort of a piano, and it's kind of like feels like you're quite sort of feels like something's far away, you know. And then as the song kind of like comes in, as more instruments come in, and like the song as it moves on to the intro, the actual song, like it's like oh, this is nice. And so when I went far away, it's like, oh, it's something nice far away. You know, oh, I want to check what that is, and then get into the song. Go, oh yeah, this is really nice, and I've got to took that decision to invest into this thing or whatever. But yeah, I think I heard it on a mix once, and I was just like, I'll have to find out what the song is, because it was really, really brilliant. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, and even I think that's why I said at the end as well, like it's like a nice kind of closer. Yeah, I don't know. It's a song. It's probably like a sort of song that I'll go back to. Oh, this is a really cool Brazilian song. So I guess that maybe that's like some kind of like.
It's like a cornerstone of
yeah.
Like for you. It's like
yeah. I think that's very much true. And yeah, it's just like, and also I guess also like because obviously like not being anywhere near Brazil or anything like that, everything feels kind of like far away in that sense. So like, this is kind of like almost like a stepping stone. It's like, oh, I'll just like live out that life for a little bit, for a few minutes, and yeah, it's just a great song. It's by a band called Silvetti. I think they've only done, I don't know, 1 or 2 albums, I think. I think it's from 1979, 80, around that time, so good 40 years old. And it's not the last song of the album, I think it's the second last, but it's called With You by Silvetti. So it's an English name, but no lyrics. So cool.
Do you know why an English name?
No, all the whole, yeah, and I think all the things are in English, all the song names, and even the album's called like the album cover as well is great, so I'd check that out as well. I think it's called like A War Between Worlds or something, or let me just double check that. A world without not war, sorry. A world without words, and it's just a fantastic song. So we'll finish with that.
And here we go then.
Okay.
I think just being like at a point in my life where I just started saying like I am a writer and I am a translator, like just naming those things was really kind of game changing for me, just because until then I really feel like it's one of those things that can be seen as, you know, a hobby or as a side project or just, you know, something I do in my spare time. But to give that a name and to, you know, have that be a part of like how I identify, like it's really important to me to have a role in the literary community, and to name those roles has really helped me feel like, okay, um, even if I have not, you know, written anything in my like novel in progress or something in a few weeks now, you know, I still have this part of, you know, this is still something that I feel is a part of me, is like being a writer and being someone who writes and I will write again, right? It's like a commitment to myself in the same way. I only really started calling myself a translator like last year, even though I had been obviously working on things and very interested in this for a while. But just being able to like name that, I think also, in addition to making it more tangible and real for me, I think it legitimizes what I do to other people as well, like especially in when working with Korean publishers to, you know, talk about, you know, can I translate this story and like here's where I want to submit this, and working with them in that partnership. Really all I had to do is just email like, hi, I'm a translator and I'm interested in this. And that took me so long to just figure out that that's what I could do, other than just, you know, feeling like I had to apologize, like, oh, I'm just, you know, I just graduated from school and I'm really interested in this, and, you know, kind of stumbling over myself to say sorry when all I had to say was, you know, this is what I do, and, you know, make that kind of real for both me and for the people I'll work with. So yeah, I think maybe I'll do it on social media too, and then I'll really write the book. But for now, I think just saying it to whoever you're coming up against it counts for a lot.
I think that is incredibly solid advice, especially to young women. I think, you know, the white cis man is not going to have those troubles. So you've picked a little bit about liking Korean literature and talked a little bit about how it's sort of changed, even sort of throughout whilst you've been studying it, and sort of, you know, some hallmarks of the UK literary scene has been like the vegetarian, and that's sort of been, you know, a bit of a game changer there. And I was wondering if you wanted to speak a little bit about some Korean books you've enjoyed, and what that experimental literary scene is a little bit like, and sort of is that still sort of a hallmark, or have things changed a little bit as well?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'll never be able to read as much as I want to be reading, but I'm very intentional when I'm looking for things I want to read in full. Like I'll often read like short stories or things that I see around just to see, or just to keep an eye on, yeah, like what are people talking about? What books are resonating with people right now? And then I also kind of do my own research in terms of like, what do I think is here, but I'm not seeing in these conversations that I would really like to see. So I think for me, starting out, I was really interested in stories kind of from the social margins, because I think there's this view of Korea, you know, if people know about Korea, it's usually through a lens of like, you know, this very conservative, you know, kind of rigid society. But there's like a very vibrant literary scene that's dedicated to discussing issues of feminism, discussing issues of like queer life and queer writing. And like now that trend is starting to be reflected in what's being translated, which is really cool. So I think I really have enjoyed, I think it's coming out soon. It's coming out this fall in English translation, actually. But I really recommend Love in the Big City by Sang-young Park, translated by Anton Her. It's everything that you really just would be shocked to see in a Korean novel if your only exposure had been, I think, the source of things that I was reading as an undergrad being translated from Korean to English. It goes against like all these notions of like a conservative or just, you know, kind of moody, melancholic Korean novel. It's just really fun. It's a really wild romp. It's very queer. It's great. It's really funny. I really enjoyed. I got to read it, got to read the translation and got to read the original as well, and definitely recommend that coming out soon. I feel like sci-fi and speculative fiction are also starting to get a new life, both in Korea and in translation. I think in the English market too, I feel that those genres were often kind of seen as niche or kind of pushed aside or not really relegated to like literary conversation, so to speak. But it's been really cool to see a lot of Korean speculative writers getting their due and also getting translated. So I really enjoyed, I've been reading some Kim Bo-young, also a collection that just came out in English by Sophie Bowman and Sang Yu as the translators. I'm Waiting for You by Kim Bo-young is it's really cool, really weird sci-fi, and I'm really enjoying it. And then, yeah, in terms of what I'm reading now that I'm also really excited to translate, there's a new young writer named Hee Jung-her, and she's doing pretty much exactly what I was looking for when I was on my own kind of search for like what I like to read in English. Does this exist in Korean? And it does, and it's her work, and it's speculative. It's kind of like folktale-esque, fairy tale-esque, but also there's some sci-fi, there's some just completely unexplained surreal moments. It's like everything that I really look for when I'm looking to be surprised by something. So I'm working on some translations of those stories now, and I'm excited to share those. So yeah, that's what I'm reading lately, and I really recommend everything that's coming out. Please read it. It's a lot of good stuff coming out from Korean.
I want to look at history and Brazilian history and fiction as told by women writers down the female line. So this is perhaps why I brought these novels to you, because they're of particular interest to me. But I also want to look at how race plays into that as well, how often there's an originating couple of either an indigenous woman and a Portuguese man, or an enslaved woman and a Portuguese man. It's almost always that way around. And they are the Adam and Eve of the story. And I hadn't thought about 100 Years of Solitude, but and The House of the Spirits. But yeah, they are telling the same kind of structured novel. But these are not. I wouldn't say that they were magical realist. Perhaps this next one is slightly more magical realist. Poncia Vicencio by Conceição Evaristo.
Again, cover perfection.
It's a good cover, isn't it? I can't see who did the cover of this, but this is a novel from 2003, written by Conceição Evaristo, who's become very much a sort of a spokesperson for Afro-Brazilian women's writing. She's absolutely magnificent. This was her first novel, which she wrote already when she was I think in her 60s, and she had to get a bank loan out to publish it, and it was with a minority press, a small press from not one of the not Sao Paulo or Rio, and it's the most beautiful, poignant, lyrical novel told from the perspective of an Afro-Brazilian girl who lives in the countryside, and she goes to the big city. It feels a bit like a fable almost. I've just said it's not like magical realism. There are supernatural events, but it's a novel that blends Afro-Brazilian heritage and songs and cures and religion with Catholic European traditions as well, and the language is just beautiful. So this is a novel that I teach. I'm very proud to teach my second year students. Right, and it's translated. This one's translated by Paloma Martinez Cruz, but Conceição has got some amazing short stories, which is that's one thing that needs to be translated, and I'm sure somebody will translate it soon.